Morgan, Jax, and Warren had nothing whatsoever to do with Nolan Wells' death. And that's what's important. And unfortunately, because there are people who want to divide a town and come in from the outside and tell people what to think and pit neighbor against neighbor, it compounds the tragedy. It magnifies the tragedy. And I just want to say this. Here's why it's an even bigger tragedy.
I mean, first I want to say wish this would have never happened. I wish Nolan would still be here with us today. And but in my opinion, I think that the media, they shouldn't have pushed a narrative from so early. I think that they should have let the local officials do their job, let them release statements, and then, I mean, the media is obviously going to see that and then do whatever they do. But that's what I mean. I trust the local officials.
What is your thoughts on that phone call to Cito? Some people have gone out and done enhancements to the audio, and in doing that, created a transcript manually. It doesn't appear that the transcript was derived from an automated system or have any, in my opinion, real integrity with it. What are your thoughts, first, you guys, on the audio, and then I'll get to you, Ed, on could that be a defamatory area?
With only 4 minutes of this video for me to work with, watch what I've noticed. Keep your eyes on this one and Warren, okay? Watch right after the first question.
What is your thoughts on that phone call to Cito? Some people have gone out and...
Did y'all see it? Did you all see them literally lock eyes? I'll do it again slower for you.
Some people have gone out and...
Warren wasn't ready for him to break eye contact yet. He wanted to say something with his eyes. Speaking of signals, because this guy really thought that nobody would notice. Now, I'm not sure who this guy is, but notice how he's wearing a hat that says Call Cox. Now, y'all remember that Bobby Cox is the mayor of Ocean Springs, and he's friends with these people. Cox is also the name of the lawyer that they hired first. Watch what I caught twice in 4 minutes.
That clip of all of us on the boat, who it is going to believe what they want to hear. If they want to believe that my friends and I had something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we crack your super secret code, dude? We'll just do baseball signals, guys. They'll never suspect. Which is honestly just a testament for how...
Bombshell tonight in the Nolan Wells investigation. A mystery altercation emerges. And not with the guys that took him to the island on the boat. Does this change things? We cannot ignore it. Tonight, evidence of a so-called mystery altercation is emerging. Straight out to Crime Stories investigative reporter Dave Mack. Dave, what can you tell me first about this so-called mystery altercation? And this is not with the men that went to Horn Island on the boat. You know what? Let me just be clear. Crime Stories is not a symposium, a gathering place for a witch hunt. We want the truth about what happened to Nolan Wells. We are here to convict no one yet. And if evidence of a mystery altercation with other young men arises, we are pursuing it. Dave Mack, what do we know about some mystery altercation? We think after the Triton left Horn Island.
Nancy, this is a mystery altercation that is being described through social media as something that took place around 5 p.m. that day. This is 30 minutes after the Triton already left. And in this particular account, a Bertram boat was seen leaving shortly afterward at a high rate of speed. Now, this social media conversation claims that a person, one of the passengers, pretty certain Nolan Wells was part of a group that was, quote, almost fighting around 5 p.m.
Bip, 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 bip. Whoa, wait. Hold on, Nellie. Did you say 5 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I jumped in, Dave Mack, is because 5 p.m., if Nolan was seen in an altercation at 5 p.m. on Horn Island, that's after the Triton, had already left. Let's see the boat, control room. We're talking about the boat leaving Horn Island. That boat. Had that boat already left when this altercation occurred? Dave Mack, that's a yes, no.
Yes.
Listen.
But the person said in the DM to another kid that is associated, not any of the kids that I interviewed or talked to, but that could be associated to some degree, that knew Nolan, that this person wrote a message saying, me and my husband saw you arguing with Nolan, and to the effect of, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. Nolan and another person that he may have been in an argument with, to me, are people that need to be investigated.
Everyone has been focusing on the young men that were on the boat that took him to Horn Island. Then we get this audio that we're trying to corroborate, where seemingly in the background you hear them talking about trying to revive Nolan Wells on the boat. Is that even real? We don't know yet. Or has it been doctored? Trying to find out. I've got experts telling me, renowned experts, by the way, it's real, and renowned experts saying it's not real. It's just like a trial, right? Where it's expert v. expert, who's telling the truth.
Sure.
I wanted to talk about this mystery altercation. If it happened at 5 p.m., that boat was already gone. Now, as much as some people want to hang the young guys on the boat, I want to make sure we hang the right person. If there is a mystery altercation after that boat lift, we need to be investigating that altercation.
Well, you're 100% right, because the three young men that are, at least the people are saying are involved in this, that went there with Nolan Wells, there's a specific timeline from what I read. They needed assistance on their boat. They left at 4:30. They had called
Seato. You just gave me a chill down my spine. You can't introduce something because people say, I don't care what people say, on either side. They mean nothing to me. What?
Nancy, that's the problem when we have things like podcasts today and people who are not qualified to talk about serious things like this. They're not experts. They want to get likes. Law enforcement is going to keep information close to the best.
He saw the DMs. I don't have a reason to think he didn't see the DMs. Now, many people are arguing that he has taken a side. We have not taken a side. I'm on the side of finding out why everybody got back to the mainland except Nolan Wells.
Well,
and
listen,
nobody
these
saw
are
anything.
teenagers.
Nobody knows anything. It's just like Tupac Shakur got shot on the strip
Nancy,
at Vegas, and we still don't know what happened. Nobody saw a thing. That's BS.
These are young men hanging out. It's not unusual one may stay behind to hang out with other people. None of that is unusual for teenagers partying and having a good time. So that fact alone doesn't mean anything. What?
Where's your cell phone? Where is your cell phone? And try not to lie. Where's your cell phone?
Okay, right here.
Oh, really? Because here's mine. So, you want to tell me Nolan Wells stayed behind and his cell phone went without him? I understand. Don't everybody start screaming that he didn't want to get it wet. Of course he didn't want to get it wet. But there's ways around that. You can go put it on shore in your shoe, like everybody else does, to hide it from people, and then retrieve it when you go. But no, he let the boat leave with his phone. I agree with his mother on that. That is not Nolan Wells. He was never away from his phone.
So that doesn't mean anything in and of itself with what's coming out about this. You know, you're talking about him staying behind. You're talking about there's evidence that he was there after 4:30 p.m. If he's there after 4:30 p.m., Nolan Wells on that island hanging out with other people, that's it. The fact that a cell phone is on a boat and he's not as a teenager doesn't really mean anything at all.
Okay, you know what? I asked you about a mystery altercation, and should we be looking in that direction right now? And you're like going on and on about the cell phone.
No, but
and everybody
that's
that
my
owns
point.
a cell phone,
But-
which is everyone,
but
knows you never
Nancy,
leave
that's
without
my
your cell
point.
phone. He dies. Nobody sees him. The others get back safely. Now we're hearing about an altercation afterwards, and I'm not ruling out that he was on that boat when they left. But now I'm hearing about an altercation. When you can't tell the truth of what's happening, look at who was angry. Look if there was an altercation. I don't know what happened, but when I hear altercation after the Triton left, I've got to go there.
You got to look at it. You absolutely cannot ignore it. But one thing we already know from the second autopsy, they would have mentioned if he had any type of injury to his knuckles, if he had been in a fight. We didn't hear anything about abrasions or bruising or any type of injury that would be indicative of somebody that is a college football player fighting somebody.
The boys who were with Nolan Wells are finally speaking publicly again. Nancy Grace is questioning the story and the newly released altercation clip. And when you put what they just said side by side with what Nancy is now asking, some very uncomfortable questions come into focus. You think you've heard it all on this case. You haven't. In just the last 7 days, the 3 young men who were with Nolan Wells the day he disappeared sat down for a brand new interview. A private investigative report surfaced with a specific timestamp for when their boat actually left the island. One of them hired the same attorney who once represented Donald Trump, and the friends were seen breaking down at the exact spot where his body was recovered. If you're only working off what you knew last week, you are behind. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why investigators still can't close this case. Hit subscribe now, because this story is changing by the week. And if you're not following, you're going to miss the moment it actually breaks open. This week, Nolan's 3 closest friends, Warren Hudson, Jax Pitalo, and Morgan Seymour, sat down for a full on-camera interview with commentator Brandon Tatum, their attorney present, released in pieces before the complete version dropped. Jax Pitalo pushed back hard on the idea that race had anything to do with what happened, calling Nolan a brother to their group. Warren Hudson said he wishes the group had never gone out to the island that day at all. But the moment generating the most backlash isn't about Nolan, it's about his mother. Jax blamed Christine Wansley's social media posts, specifically a photo he says named him and Warren, for kicking off the wave of hate against them. That's a heavy claim to make about a grieving mother, and it's already drawing pushback online. The 3 also denied any connection to Nolan's death, pointing out it makes no sense they'd call Cito and the Coast Guard if something had already happened to him on their boat. That's their explanation. But that same audio is exactly where this gets more complicated. A call was made to Cito reporting the boat was taking on water. An enhanced version of that audio has circulated online, and some believe it captures more than a mechanical problem. Bart Edmiston's attorney called that enhanced version doctored, an accusation aimed at whoever produced it, and it hasn't been independently verified either way. Here's the question nobody's answered. If the original audio tells a different story, why hasn't a full untouched version been released for everyone to judge? Until that happens, the suspicion isn't going anywhere. While that played out on camera, the United Cajun Navy compiled its own investigative report and delivered it directly to Nolan's family, prosecutors, and law enforcement. The report includes a photo of the 3 boats anchored together that day and says the boat with the mechanical trouble pulled away at 4:31 in the afternoon. Warren Hudson has said he and the others begged Nolan to get on that boat, and he refused. A woman named Caitlin Brochard says she photographed the same boats and that when her group left around 7:30 that evening, Nolan was nowhere in sight. Combined, the report puts the last confirmed sighting of Nolan somewhere between 3:23 and 4:27 that afternoon. 3 hours on an island packed with hundreds of people, and still nobody outside his circle can account for where he was. That gap is about to matter a lot more than you think. One of Nolan's friends has retained Edward Peltzik, an attorney who previously represented Donald Trump. Ben Crump publicly reacted and didn't let it slide quietly, bringing in a lawyer that high-profile signals these families expect this case could turn into a real courtroom fight. Lawyering up isn't proof of guilt, but it raises a fair question. What exactly are they preparing for as the stakes keep rising? Just days ago, the friends were seen visiting the exact spot where Nolan's body was recovered, visibly emotional, by every account genuine. But that emotion doesn't answer the questions still surrounding those missing minutes. This is the thread that goes straight to the heart of the mystery. Early on, Ben Crump said video from the island appeared to capture Nolan yelling with someone, demanding his phone back. That set off a wave of speculation. Then a friend named Tristan Shepard said the yelling was actually his own, from a separate physical altercation with a stranger that had nothing to do with Nolan. The person who filmed the video backed that up, saying it never showed Nolan fighting anyone, though they'd heard secondhand that some kind of altercation happened that day. So here's the real question. If Shepard's account is accurate, what else happened on that island that day that never made it to video? Investigators have specifically asked the public for original, unedited footage of anything involving altercations or Nolan directly. That alone tells you this isn't settled. And there's one more account that might hold the missing piece. The woman Nolan reportedly stayed behind to talk to has been identified as 19-year-old Katie McCormick. Her sister Gracie disputes that Nolan stayed for Katie at all, saying Katie assumed he was leaving with his friends. Katie herself has said almost nothing publicly. Two accounts, they don't line up. Which one is true is still unresolved, and it's not the only story with holes in it. Nancy Grace keeps digging, questioning why Nolan's phone was left behind if he planned to catch a later ride, and raising concerns about photos his mother says are missing from it. She's also pushed back on Officer Tatum, pointing out the test the friends took wasn't a polygraph. It was a voice stress analysis, a different tool with different reliability. The two have clashed on air more than once, but while that argument plays out publicly, the real legal process is happening somewhere none of us can see. Both autopsies are complete. Neither is public. Mississippi's DA says all evidence stays sealed until it reaches a grand jury, which will decide if charges are supported. Dozens of witnesses interviewed, nobody arrested, nobody named a suspect, which means every argument you just heard, the audio, the timeline, the altercation, the conflicting accounts, is playing out in public while the one document that could settle it sits locked away. Warren Hudson's father has offered a $50,000 reward, and Nolan's own father said he didn't recognize a man who'd been giving interviews claiming to be a close friend of Nolan's. Small details, but in a case built on who's telling the truth, small details are starting to matter. Multiple people with no connection to Nolan, his family, or his friends have now been criminally charged for threats tied to this case, including threats to kill witnesses and bomb threats to government offices. Families on both sides describe waves of harassment. That's not a side story anymore. It's become one of the defining features of this case. This is tangled up in a much bigger, older conversation about how Black victims are treated differently, whose account gets believed by default, and a state with a painful history that hasn't been forgotten. So ask yourself, if the roles were reversed, would this case still be unresolved a month and a half later? A 3-hour gap nobody can account for, a boat that left at a documented time, a friend group that says they begged him to board it, an altercation on video that may or may not involve him, a mystery girl whose own family disputes why he stayed, 2 sealed autopsies, a grand jury that hasn't ruled. Nobody watching from home can tell you with certainty what happened to Nolan Wells on that island. But this case has proven one thing every time it looks like it's quieting down. It isn't. Something new breaks within days. And when the grand jury finally moves, everything you just heard collides with real evidence for the first time. Stay subscribed, because you're going to want to be watching when that happens.